Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. How do four seemingly good kids decide to go from living normal, privileged middle-class lives to planning and executing a heist? That is the story of American Animals, a film that blurs the lines between documentary and fiction in a way no film has really done before, where the actual real-life people the movie is based on wind up in scenes with the actors playing them discussing whether the movie is depicting it the way that they remember. Let's take a look at the trailer.
You ever feel like you're waiting for something to happen?
It pains me to see you embarrass your father.
But you don't know what it is.
You're in, or you're out.
That thing that could make your life special.
You're in, or you're out. You're in, or you're out.
How can I tell you if I'm in or I'm out without you telling me the first thing about what I might be in or out of?
This would be something dangerous and very exciting.
This library is home to the most valuable book in the United States.
$12 million. You really need to see how easy this is gonna be. Oh, you know this from all your previous heists?
Can I just say how dumb this entire thing is?
How do you know no one's gonna get hurt?
I don't want you waking up years from now wondering what could have happened and who you could have been.
Are you sure you're okay?
Oh, this is my life. This isn't some game.
Can you please not touch the model? Thanks.
Let's do this.
All right, from the movie American Animals, Evan Peters, Barry Keoghan, Blake Jenner, Jared Abrahamson, director Bart Layton, and the American Animals themselves, Spencer Reinhard, Warren Lipke, Eric Borsuk, and Chaz Allen. One more round of applause for everybody. You guys aren't animals, for lack of a better way to refer to you as the real people that this was based on. I threw animals at you, sorry about that. Bart, let's start with you. What I love about this film is there's a lot of people right now doing different things with documentary and mixing it up, and you did this before with your last film, but this is something different. I don't think we've ever really seen actors blending with the real life people in the midst of scenes in a movie. So how did you know that that was gonna work? Because it does.
Oh, good question. I'm not sure I did know 100% that it was going to work. And we had a lot of conversations with the people who are financing the movie. Would be like, how's this going to work? Are you sure this is going to work? And I'd be like, it's going to work great. And of course, you don't know.
Of all insecurity for the financiers.
And the truth is, anytime you do something a little bit new, there is no guarantee that it's going to work. It works great on paper. And of course, it's not until you get into the edit where you know whether it does, and I'm thrilled that it seems to work. You know, the idea is that, you know, we watch a lot of these movies where, you know, you go in and the first thing it says is based on a true story or inspired by real events, and then you have this sort of sneaking suspicion that everything that follows, or a lot of it, has been very embellished or exaggerated. And with this, the story was so extraordinary that it didn't need much of that. And then when I started to meet the real guys, they were so unusual and their voices were so sort of honest that I felt there had to be a way of including them in the movie in a way that makes your experience of it and your engagement and investment, not just in the story but in the characters, much deeper because of it.
How much did you find that you scripted that and it worked, or you did a lot of experimentation on set and some of it worked and some of it didn't, or were you pretty much to the bone? You had it down going into shooting.
Yeah, it was it was a script that I wrote and rewrote, and I initially wrote the script based on letters that I had exchanged with these 4 gentlemen, and then when we sat down, when they finally became free men again, and we sat down and we shot the interviews, they said a lot of what was in those letters, but they also didn't say a lot of what I had expected them to say. And so then there was a whole process of having to go back to the screenplay.
So you started this while you guys were still incarcerated? How long ago was that?
We were all released in 2012. And so we started talking with
6 years
Raw
ago.
in 2008.
What did you think when he approached you and started talking to you about your story and possibly making a movie about it? And did he initially tell you that it would be something that you would be taking part in outside of just the interviews?
Yeah, I think it was billed originally more as a documentary, so we were surprised when it took on a more scripted aspect. But I think we all thought it would be a cathartic experience, and we thought Bart really shared our vision as far as wanting to be raw and honest and open about these horrible experiences in our life. And it just, it was unique to find a filmmaker who was, having the same exact thoughts as we were, and it just felt right.
The film, without giving anything away, has a pretty salient point about privilege and class structure and the amount of work that we want to put in for the successes that we potentially see ourselves being. Was that a vision that the 4 of you also shared, or was that something that the artist kind of took from your stories? Is that a reflection that you have about yourselves as well?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. The kind of the way that Bart incorporated us from the beginning made it clear that he was trying something new, but trying to explain it in like old language. He shied away from saying documentary, just because, between interviews, visits in prison, from producers and whatnot, we really got to get a sense of where he was going with it and what he wanted to do.
Bart, I love that you focused on the artist as the sort of central theme of this, because so often in our culture, I think we see the artist as the thing that potentially doesn't take work, that you just have this overnight success, and it actually takes a lot of work and a lot of hustle.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was the thing that for me, I when I learned about the story, I thought it was a great, it's a roller coaster heist movie, and, we all love that, but also I think it was when we started communicating, particularly Spencer wrote in his letters, this very honest, I guess, and quite unusual idea that he was trying to express, which is that, as an artist, you need to have some experience of life. You need some suffering. And the one thing that he wasn't experiencing in his life was hardship. And that, I think, it's just the weird, the idea that your main problem is that you don't really have a problem is a very hard thing, I think, to connect with. But there was something about the honesty of that, and the fact that, when I talked to Warren and these guys, they talked about being brought up to believe that, their lives were going to be remarkable and special and that they were going to be important. And I think now we all inhabit a culture where there's a lot of pressure to be interesting. We put all of this stuff out into the world on Instagram and Twitter and all of that, and then we wait for it all to come back to know that we're valuable and that we're important, and there's more and more pressure to live this so-called interesting life. And so those were the ideas I thought were really fascinating, and the fact that these guys, they'd done this deeply misguided thing. They paid a heavy cost. They spent most of their 20s in prison. I felt like the honesty of what they were saying and the fact that they were unbelievably remorseful, and I think that comes through in the movie as well. All of that felt like it added up to a lot more than just your average heist movie, although I have to say, I defy you to find a heist movie which will give you a better sense of what it might actually feel like to attempt something an art theft if you're not really a born criminal.
Well, I'm sure, and you as a director also got to have a lot of fun with playing with heists as well. I mean, there are fantasy sequences of how cool they think that they'll look doing the heist versus how the heist is actually going to go versus the plan. You get to kind of have your cake and eat it as well as a director when it comes to a heist movie.
Yeah, because a lot of what these guys did was, you know, if you're not a professional criminal and you don't know how to plan a robbery, the first thing that you go and do, or the first thing they do is we go to Blockbusters and hire all the great heists. If they bothered to watch them to the end, they probably would have realized that they all end up pretty badly.
Right, the end of The Killing is not good.
The end of most of them is not great, let's be honest. But, you know, and then that gives us, you know, as a group of artists and creators, the opportunity to play with that. So the idea is the deeper they go into the fantasy of trying to live inside a movie, the deeper the movie goes towards the tropes of those heist movies that we recognize.
You know, oftentimes when people portray real people in movies, they say that they don't want the real people on the set or it would make them uncomfortable, but you guys were actually inhabiting the same scenes with these guys at times. What was that like? I mean, for you, even in one moment, you turn to him and you turn to Warren and you say, is this how it actually was? And you guys have a conversation.
Yeah, that was cool. I was excited to actually hang out with Warren a little bit and sort of pick up on his energy and his quirkiness and his funness, if that's even a word.
Funness works. Yeah.
Funness, yeah. But it was really cool, and it was. I think it was your first time on a set, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. So Bart handled me. I mean, part of that integration.
His whole life is a movie set.
Part of that integration was Bart very calmly explaining to me the way things had to be done, keep me in check, because, it was running wild. I had no idea.
What were you doing?
I mean, just taking direction. I mean...
No, you were great. I mean, it was you were taking direction. Stayed pretty hardcore.
Yeah, but at a certain point during the scene, a phone went off.
Oh my God, that's right. And we all thought it was his, and he's like, it's not mine, it's not mine. And because of everything that happened,
and because I'm, a convicted felon, everyone was, he was like, oh, it's the dude, but it wasn't me.
It wasn't him. It turns out, it wasn't him.
Oh, what about for the rest of you guys portraying these guys? I think not all of you share scenes with the people that you portray, right? But
me and Eric chatted a little bit over Instagram. You know what I mean? We sent some messages back and forth, but we didn't go too deep. He sent me some music that he listened to during that time, so...
What was that?
It was like Wu-Tang, Johnny Cash. There's a lot of stuff I listened to, too. So I was like, I get it. You know what I mean? That's all we needed to do.
Blake, what about you?
No, me and Chaz, we actually met right after Sundance. That was the first time we actually had a conversation. But
exactly.
But before once I was cast, Bart kind of explained to me he didn't want us having too much contact with the guys. Want us to kind of take these roles and color them in ourselves a little bit, so we felt like we had some skin in the game as artists, and not feel like a blind responsibility to play them a certain way. Which to me was really smart, man, because you don't feel like the choices were picked for you, and it felt like you weren't in a shoebox. I always say it kind of felt like we were on a dance floor, just kind of grooving out every day.
Yeah, your character is kind of extremely type A. No, I don't know if you're like that. This is going to be kind of hard to do
for you
here.
to decide. So.
And also,
he's every letter in the alphabet, baby.
Slightly on the outside of what's going on with this heist as well. Missed that. What did they say?
Meant to sound smooth.
Don't know, they get deep.
Different show altogether. Say that.
But what was your take on this guy? Because he's a little on the outside of the entire heist, and possibly the smartest of the four of them, just in terms of what the hell they're doing and the stakes that actually exist.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked once I read it. I liked that he came in and he was kind of the voice of reason, and would call shenanigans on everyone, but the plan would just keep going, and he kind of felt like the character would lower his bar for acceptance of like mistakes and F-ups and what have you, but then at the end, when he kind of has lost patience, you kind of get to see that all come full circle, and I thought it was a really beautiful journey for a character.
Yeah, I just have to say
please.
that as these guys, without even meeting us, how they actually captured everything that we went through, it's really incredible, and it really says a lot about them as actors. So, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chaz.
I'm right.
That's nice.
Thanks.
Well, Bar, how much do you? Oh, I should have let you guys applause. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Couple.
There you go.
I love you. I love you. Yeah.
Bart, when you go into directing something like this, how much do you impart onto them what you know about these guys, and how much do you try to keep them a little bit at arm's length so they can create their own ideas about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a discussion, because obviously, if you're an actor and you're going to play someone real, if you can actually reach out and speak to that person or spend time, these guys, particularly Evan, was really keen to do that, because why wouldn't you? But I guess my feeling was, they're 10 years older. Most of that 10 years has been spent in prison. They have spent, that they're different people effectively, and I guess
There's going to be a lot of hindsight opinions.
Massively,
on the
yeah,
at
and
that time,
if I'm going to try and portray you when you were 20, hanging out with you now will be useful, but of limited, value. And in a way, I felt like they wanted to. I don't know. I mean, that must have been decades and decades
I'm imagining
ago.
myself describing me at
Yeah.
20, and it would only be me going, "Oh, that was so stupid."
Yeah.
Don't do it like
No,
this. Just do it a little bit better than that, please. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I found some letters that I had written when I was like 19. I was like, God, this kid's a dick. It's like, I mean, but that's part of what this is about. That age, between childhood and adulthood, when you do kind of sort of insane things. And I suppose I felt like, these guys needed the freedom to find their own versions. And if you hang out with these guys, they are very likable, and I didn't want the actors feeling like they had to do right by them. They had to portray them. There are difficult things in the movie. There are things that these guys are undoubtedly not proud of. And, I wanted the actors to have the freedom to portray all of that with all of the kind of blood and guts that's involved with that.
Barry, you're coming from Killing of a Sacred Deer, which came out, was that last year? Anyway,
Yep.
Great. Amazing movie. What is it like coming from a character like that to kind of, I would say you are in some ways the heart of this film? No offense.
Two completely different worlds. I mean, yeah, I wanted to work with Bart. I kind of, I've seen The Imposter, I don't know, many times. So I wanted to work with Bart, and and we reached out to each other on Twitter, and I mean, that's how we hooked up. And yeah, I read the script, liked it, and sent away a few tapes, done the tapes again, and then I met Evan in New York. But yeah.
How much time did you guys get together before you started working together?
We just had a couple hours before the
we
reading.
just went on a stroll around New York.
Yeah, and then we had the house obviously with the guys when we were rehearsing. So we got to live with everybody and make fires and.
Oh yeah, so everybody got to sort of stay together while you were shooting the movie?
Well, we had a rehearsal period before we started shooting, and I felt that it would fast forward the relationships if they were all kind of forced to inhabit the same hellhole of a house they created. Yeah.
What sort of process did you develop over the rehearsal period? Were you rewriting it all, or figuring things out, or just sort of getting everybody comfortable with each other?
Yeah, it was mainly that, but also, I'd not written a screenplay before, and I had no way of knowing. You write stuff, and it's not until the actors show up and breathe life in it. When I watch the movie, I don't see any of what I wrote. These guys basically come, and then suddenly it becomes, that's this extraordinary thing that actors can do. They suddenly inhabit those characters, and then the lines become truthful and real and all the rest of it. And so, but then we would be rehearsing, and then these guys, who are all kind of brilliant improvisers and brilliant writers themselves, would throw in, some of the lines which I love most in the film. I wish I could take credit for them, but a lot of them are actually things that these guys just threw in on the day, and I would go, yeah, I'll have that, and would write it down. And on the day it wouldn't be in the script, and I'd say, remember you said that in rehearsal, chuck that back in.
Spencer, you have a beautiful shot in the film where you're watching Barry drive by, and it's clearly a moment where your character is, or you, not your character, are reflecting on the past and the roads that you could have gone down. What is it like to see that interpreted and on screen?
Well, it was very surreal to kind of have that moment in the film where I'm walking out and you see me watching the car drive by, and then later on you see where I'm coming from, that I'm working there in the garage.
It's also
on artwork.
a thing that you took part in. It's not like you gave an interview, and then he went and made a
Right.
movie, and now these actors are doing it. You're actually taking part in this sort of metaphorical interpretation of your feelings about
Yeah,
this
and so
experience.
the act of retelling the story to Bart and then being in the scene in the movie where I'm looking back on it has this kind of weird overlap between real life and this incredible movie Bart's made.
Yeah, and those
So
two
that-
shots, I shot them a year apart. The shots are next to each other in the movie. He's watching Barry drive past, but actually, I shot that a year earlier.
Really?
Pretty much.
The magic of movies.
Yeah, how do they work? So Chaz, do you row as much as we're led to believe in the movie?
Do I row?
Yeah.
No, there's not much,
You?
much crew.
I got to row in this movie?
The Kentucky
No.
River is a big rowing tradition.
No, I was trying to think of because he's obviously, as you can see, he's a very physical young man.
Fitness instructor.
Yeah, but I wanted to introduce again. The thing about the rowing is you come in and out of focus, and then so it was a sort of like, how can we introduce this character in a very sort of quick way and understand that he's, the physicality and that the fitness is an important thing. So yeah, I gave him the rowing obsession.
You said that you shot, I guess that you shot the interviews a year before you shot the movie, if you had that shot with Spencer in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the same DP for both of those things?
Actually, it wasn't, just because of scheduling differences.
That's why I asked, because they match beautifully. You wouldn't
funny
think
enough,
that.
the two DPs are best friends. They're both Norwegian, but
Cool.
the guy who shot the interviews went off and was shooting Paddington 2 randomly while we were shooting this. It's quite different. It's a great movie. It's very different.
It's not on the flight over here.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, unfortunately, it was a different, but yes, very similar in the whole approach.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who has a question? Right here.
Hi, my question is for the cast. I was wondering if you guys could pull off a heist with anyone, who would you pick and why?
Don't ask these four guys that.
Not us.
These guys right here.
Not us.
I think Frank Sinatra would be on my team because he'd be able to just smoothly charm his way right through. You know what I'm saying?
Go on, Barry, you man.
Barry Grylls.
Man vs.
Runs
Wild.
Wild. That's true. Yeah.
Man vs. Wild. You ever see that?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Wouldn't starve.
No, it'd be good. You? God, I don't know. You?
We could tag team it together. I think it was me and Evan. We can throw like Jim Carrey in the mask.
Jim Carrey
into
in the
mask.
mask? Yeah, that's
I
perfect.
think we'd pull it off.
Yeah, I like that. That works for me. I like that.
Next question.
Hi, I was wondering for the actors, what was the most memorable memory while on set or while filming?
No.
Okay, there's something. What is it?
Yeah. Oh God. Man, I think maybe we dodged a bullet.
Yeah. It was when Barry had. I'll answer this because he won't tell it truthfully. He'd obviously had a bit of a night out the night before, possibly, and he was off camera. So he was shooting you're shooting either who's on camera and he was off camera. And he was in the boot of the car while we were shooting because the camera was where he was supposed to be sitting. And obviously the combination of his night out and the motion of the car, he falls asleep in the middle of the scene. So we're waiting for the line to come. And the line, I don't remember what the line was, but we shot a scene the day before in which Barry's line, which we had to keep reminding him of, was maybe we dodged a bullet. So we're shooting this scene. The line comes and no Barry. It's like, Barry! And he wakes up and he's like, oh, maybe we dodged a bullet, like this. It's like, yeah, Barry, that was great. That was the line from yesterday's scene. Thanks for that. Yeah. So that became the what's the word? Like the logo from the, So I bought them all like hip flasks afterwards and said, maybe we dodged a bullet. Yeah.
Guys, I love the film. Congratulations. It's not all the time that your story gets told so beautifully, which I think Bart and these actors did. Yeah. So congratulations. It comes out in June. What day in June? Is it this?
The 1st.
The 1st.
It comes out Friday, yeah.
Not this Friday?
Yeah, and I would just say, you know, it is a smallish, independent movie. We put a lot of love and energy and effort into it for you guys. If you like it, I really hope you'll help us get the word out there because we feel like it's something that you haven't seen before.
And I will say, it doesn't look small at all. It looks big and beautiful. And yeah, I complimented you on the cinematography, and I really mean it. It's gorgeous.
Thanks.
But before we let you guys go, or as we wrap out, we're going to take a quick look at a behind-the-scenes featurette. Let's take a look.
This library is home to the most valuable book in the United States.
$12 million and only one old lady guarding it.
These are real people, these are real decisions, there are real consequences. I wanted the real guys. Actually, in the movie, it makes for a more interesting and less conventional film.
Something I've often thought about is how my life would have been different if I hadn't met Warren.
I'm curious to find out what would really happen in real life. This is your red pill or blue pill moment, my friend.
This is kind of just what Warren does.
So this is how you remember it? Not exactly.
They're likely to get themselves in a lot of trouble.
It's $12 million.
This is my life. This isn't some game.
Could we get it?
Let's do this.
Everybody, one last time, give it up for everybody from American Animals. Let's hear it.